The idea of the circle of life. And it's our theme for the month, the circle of life. The circle, the cycle, this thing called life, of which we are each an important part of, is an ongoing series of beginnings and endings, of openings and closings, of hellos and goodbyes, of life and death. As I stressed last week, we spoke about this last week, as I stressed last week, there is something very important to know about this circle, and that is that it is not stagnant. It doesn't loop around itself, but it is an unbreakable circle that is forever, forever growing and expanding itself. And so the circle of life, of God, of divine energy, is forever expanding. And in the words of Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, he says the spiral of life is upward, eternal and progressive expansion in its law, and there are no breaks in its continuity. So he's saying basically the same thing. There are no breaks in that circle of life. It is everything, omnipresent, omnipresent spirit. Each Sunday this month, I would invite you to be here because we are being inspired by lessons from The Lion King. Lion King is kind of weaving its way in there, and that's why we're going to watch it tomorrow night. And we're exploring this upward spiral of life and our part in it. Our part in it. As a recap of the story, because we went a little bit through it last week, because of some tragic events, our hero, the lion cub Simba, if you've seen the movie or the play, leaves his home and his family, forgetting that he is the rightful king of Pride Rock. He wanders for quite a long time, having some interesting experiences and some fun along the way, but he is not fulfilling. He's not fulfilling his life's purpose. Maybe you can relate to that a little bit. You know, we go along life, and yeah, we have some good times, and some interesting experiences, but there's something not fulfilling, that each of us has a life purpose within us, and we're not really fulfilling it. Because when we get in alignment with that life purpose, it feels so good. It feels so expansive and wonderful. So it takes Rafiki, a wise old baboon, to remind him first of who he is, and second, of his place. His place. We spent last week on the concept of finding our place. That was the name of our talk. And I gave you, those of you who were here, specific homework assignment. And you got a piece of blank paper in your bulletin, so you know what I'm talking about. So I'm not going to ask if you did it, but I am going to encourage you to do it. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, we're on YouTube, and you can watch the video to find out what I'm talking about. And then you too can do it. But today we're going to expand. We're going to expand on the idea of finding our place. Finding our place. In this ever upward spiral of life, this progressive, ever expanding cycle, by exploring what it takes to roar into our greatness. To roar into our greatness. Because the name of this talk is Roaring into Our Greatness. So we're not just going to walk into it. We're not just going to stumble into it. We're going to roar into it. And I thought roar was an appropriate word, since we're talking about The Lion King as the movie to base the series of talks upon. So I have for this morning, because I like acronyms, something that means even more than just a lion's bellow with the roar. R-O-A-R. Okay? And what it's going to stand for, and what we're going to talk about this morning is R. Reach for our resplendency. Open, O, your observant eye. And A. Activate your awesomeness. R. Rejoice in your resiliency. So R, reach for your resplendency. And I didn't make that word up. What the heck does it mean anyway? It means your brilliance, your brilliance, your magnificence, your brightness, your radiance, and your splendor. That's what it means, okay? So when I say reach for your resplendency, I mean reach for your brilliance, reach for your magnificence, reach for your brightness, your radiance, your splendor, or said in another way, reach for your divine self. Reach for the divinity of who you truly are. And when I say reach for these kinds of things, I'm not implying that it's somewhere out here, okay? When you reach, you're not reaching out here. We are instead reaching within. We're going deep within, because within is where our splendor truly lies. It's not out here. It's within each and every one of us. That's where our splendor lies. You can't buy it, even though there's some great things out there for sale for the outside, which I'm going to take a peruse before the meeting. But the real splendor, the brilliance, the diamonds, the rubies, all those sapphires and sparkly things, all within each and every one of us. We are jewels. We radiate our greatness. I've heard it said by Michael Beckwith, thank you Dennis, perfect. We are here to unfold a cosmic destiny, not just make little bubbles and waves. We often settle for making little bubbles and waves, though. And that isn't why we're here. It really isn't why we're here. Every one of us is more resplendent than we could ever imagine, than we could ever know. We are here to express God's love, to be God's light, to be the divine expression of the oneness, of the brilliance of God itself, the energy. We can use, in science of mind, we can use other words for God too. We can use spirit, we can use divine intelligence, we can use infinite love, because it's all describing this expansive energy that we have been created out of. Wow. How wonderful that we can know that we have within us the essence of brilliance and light and greatness. And this eternal, internal reach implies the need to be willing to stretch, one of my favorite concepts, to stretch beyond our comfort zone. To be in the comfort zone, but just to stretch a little bit. Sometimes it takes great courage, though, because we're familiar with that box, if you will, that comfortable place. And then to just like step outside of it, stretching a little, and it can be uncomfortable. But this is when we move into our greatness. The greatness that exists within each and every one of us. But we have to be willing to stretch a little sometimes, to just move out of what we're comfortable in, when we know we're being called. And we're all always being called. Just listen to that internal voice. You will hear it. You will hear it. And I must tell you, every time that I have personally stretched, I have found out something more about myself than I didn't know before. Because if we just stay in these little comfortable boxes and don't explore what's out there and what's part of our experience, we'll never know what that experience really is and how great we really are. So, this is a way of experiencing your resplendency. Now, you're all going to be using that word. I am resplendent. Right? I'm a resplendent being. If anyone says anything to you, just tell them that. It's the truth. You're not lying. So we're up to O. O is open or observing eye. And it is very, very important that you make the decision to reach, that you open this observing eye. And here is the O part of roar. To see if there are any thoughts, any feelings, or any actions that hold you back from stretching into your greatness. Because usually, every time you want to move out of that familiar place, that you know a little change is required, you might hear an old belief pop up, a voice saying, and it's not the intuitive voice, it's like two voices in us, hopefully just two. It's not It's not that voice, but it's the ego voice. It's the human voice. It's that voice that's telling us all these things that aren't true, because we really are, each one, great. We all are. So to step into, to stretch into, if you will, your greatness, and to let go of old beliefs that no longer serve. They don't serve us anymore, and they're always creating. They create as much as we consciously create. The old stuff in our subconscious that we don't need anymore, that we don't even know it's there, is creating also. So that's why it's extremely important to become aware. First step in stretching is to become aware. So in The Lion King, our hero, Simba, was being held back by self-blame. He had this stuff going on in his subconsciousness. The tragic death of his father. He lived with that shame from the moment he left Pride Rock. He hung on to it even as old, I can't even say his name, Rafiki, as old Rafiki tried to remind him of who he was. He almost let it destroy him. You ever have a belief like that? I think some of us do. Almost destroys us. But then, ultimately, as Simba did, he opened his eyes and he saw what he was doing. Oh, observing what we're doing. One of the biggest things that keeps us from stretching is fear. Yes?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of success. Free-floating fear. Free-floating fear. That fear will keep us suppressed and repressed. In Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes writes, "We are afraid of our greatness because we are so tied down to littleness. We clutch the littleness anxiously and jealously, but so precariously to our hearts. It is essential to see beyond," he writes, "the littleness to something bigger. None of us is as perfect in expression as we ought to be." That's pretty cool. So the challenge to each of us, he writes, is to be great enough to rise in love, in confidence, through understanding and compassion. Compassion for others, and most importantly, compassion for ourselves. We are so hard on ourselves sometimes. Oh my goodness, we abuse ourselves more than any other human being ever could. That's the truth. We will always feel some fear when we reach that edge of what is really familiar, what we've always known. Now we're stepping out into the unknown. We should know that when we step out into the unknown, that's where the good of God is present. It's always there. Remember, we're saying that this is a oneness, and so therefore there can be no space where this infinite creative energy is not. So in the unknown is pure spirit. So when we step out and we get this, well, what are you trying to do with this voice? With, you know, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not this enough, you're not, and we don't listen to it and we step out into it, we are enveloped by this divine love, and it will guide us. It will love us unconditionally. That is what spirit does. But facing the fear and moving through it, this is when transformation occurs. We've heard transformation, and we might say to ourselves, well, I don't even know what that is. It's when we walk through the fear, in spite of any feelings in that fear. When we move right through it, that's transformation. That's when we transform who we are and what we are experiencing. That's when we really do experience our greatness. You can't really experience it in the small littleness of the box. You gotta step out into the circle of life. Spirit isn't a box. Spirit is a circle that's always expanding and that is limitless. There is no finite God. It's infinite. We are finite in these physical forms, but within us is an infinite source of greatness, and it's within each and every one of us. So the next time you feel like you can't do it and you don't have it in you to stretch into your greatness, just remember the facts, I found this, about some very influential biblical figures. Noah, he had a drinking problem, Abraham was too old. Isaac was a daydreamer. Jacob, a liar. Leah was unattractive. Joseph was abused. Moses had a stuttering problem. Gideon was afraid, and Samson was a womanizer. Jeremiah and Timothy were too young. David was an adulterer and a murderer. Elijah was suicidal. Isaiah preached naked. Interesting. That won't happen here. Not to worry. Jonah ran from God. Job, he went bankrupt. John the Baptist ate bugs. The Sumerian women, so there's a lot of protein. Okay, the Sumerian woman was divorced more than one time. Paul was too religious. Timothy had an ulcer, and for heaven's sake, Lazarus was dead. So there are really no more excuses for stretching. You know, these are biblical figures, and they all had a human thing going on. We all have human things going on. That doesn't mean we can't express our greatness, even while those human things are going on, because I know I've done it. No more excuses. So it's opening the observant eye and being gentle with ourselves. Be kind to who we are. Be kind and gentle, and be willing to release whatever is holding you back from stretching, so that you can then activate your awesomeness. Your awesomeness. I love that phrase. So I want you to say that. I am activating my awesomeness.
I am activating my awesomeness.
Doesn't that feel good?
Yeah, it does.
I love the way that felt. Reading that going, oh.
I want to say it again.
All right, say it again.
I am activating my awesomeness.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. This is where the rubber meets the road, so to speak.
Yeah.
In The Lion King, this happened the moment Simba opened his eyes to self-blame and shame, and chose to return to Pride Rock and take his rightful place as king. And remember, we're all heir to the kingdom of God, so in a sense, we are all royalty. Why not?
Wow.
Yeah. I've heard it said that whenever we are willing to stretch, we get butterflies. You know that feeling? So the trick is to teach the butterflies to fly in formation, to train them, to move in spite of them. That's how we grow. And then you get comfortable and you can stretch a little more and get butterflies and grow even more. Christian Larson wrote in The Pathway of Roses, he talked about what happens when you begin to activate your awesomeness. Awesome. Don't you feel awesome?
Yes.
Okay, he wrote, the interior you is the you created in the image and likeness of God, the interior you. It is therefore evident that when you begin to live with the life and power of the interior you, the expression of real greatness and real spirituality will begin. And from that moment on, he says, you will not be limited to the power of the personal self. Instead, you will fill the personal self with that divine power from on high that is limitless, inexhaustible, and invincible. And I would say that's pretty awesome. And it's an awesome place to be, and it's an awesome thing to feel. To really feel connected with your divinity. And then we get to rejoice in our resiliency. I like this one. And so, I like them all. But I like this one, because I'm talking about this one now. And so, as you are reaching, observing, and activating, there may be a time or two when things don't go exactly as you plan, or as you think they should. Ever have that happen? It doesn't mean to retreat, though. It doesn't mean to retreat. It doesn't mean that you did anything wrong. It doesn't mean that you're a failure. It doesn't mean any of that. It means it's the time to rejoice in the fact that you are a resilient being. We are so resilient. This really struck me, as I was writing this, it really struck me, the resiliency that we have inside of us. All the things that go on in our lives that could knock us down, and we could stay down, but we're resilient beings. So we rise up and we rejoice in our resiliency. It's a gift that the divine has made to us. We're resilient. And so that takes away a lot of the beating up we can do of ourselves, the abuse, as I spoke of, that we do to ourselves. And we're prone to do this sometimes when things don't turn out exactly as we thought they should. That usually means that God has a higher plan for you. It's a great way to shift into self-doubt, self-blame, thinking you're a failure, all of those things that go on, saying, oh, this didn't happen because there's something better waiting for me. There's something better I'm supposed to experience. That's, to me, it's an opportunity to stand in spiritual truth and know that something better is always waiting to take place in my life. To take place in my life. Let me tell you, I've had a couple of years of opportunities to practice this resiliency. And it's like, sometimes, this just occurred to me. You ever see the paddle balls? You know, you have the paddle and they have the elastic and the ball at the end, and you just go wing, wing, and they always come down. Sometimes I feel like that. I feel like that ball on the other end of that paddle. But it's resilient because it always pops right back out again. And that's what we have to remember, that this or something better is waiting for me. So it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to grow, and so we might as well rejoice in it. Because this stuff is going to happen to all of us anyway. Life happens. And so it's going to happen, good, bad, or indifferent. We might as well make it to our advantage and see it as an opportunity. That's practicing our resiliency. And then I have this story here that's an example of resiliency. Not ours, but a couple of dogs. There once was a local dog show, not exactly the kind that you would expect, though. There was one very unusual contest, and it was the dog jumping contest. Only 2 dogs remained in this contest. And it was a feisty brown dog, full of bounce, and keen to please his master. And his sleek black opponent, a dog that seemed full of poise and confidence. Each dog was given 3 attempts to jump to the top of the wall, and to make it to the top, and to, you know, step over it. From a starting point, just jump straight up. At the first level, the brown dog jumped and struggled to pull himself to the top, but he missed. But he was given 3 chances. So he tried again, and he missed again. And then on the 3rd attempt, as he's holding on, he pulled himself to the top. Success. Then the black dog received his master's signal, and he jumped immediately to the top. Easy, effortlessly. No problem. The contest continued. And each time, the height of the wall was raised just a little bit more. And each time that brown dog missed, and then missed again, and always after some struggle on that 3rd attempt, he made it to the top. Meanwhile, that sleek black dog, each time he jumped, it was easy, effortless. He just made it to the top. No problem. It was obvious to the audience that the black dog was going to be the winner, and that why didn't they stop this embarrassing situation and just declare him the winner? The level was raised now, several inches high. And as before, the gutsy little brown dog, he tried it that first time, he didn't make it, fell down. His owner was catching him, by the way, he wasn't getting hurt. So then he made it the 2nd time, nope. The 3rd time, he was up, success once again. Now the black dog, he tried to, well, he didn't, he came out, and as usual, jumped elegantly up into the air, but he missed. He didn't make it this time for the very first time. He didn't make it to the top. And he still had 2 more tries to go, because they get 3 tries. The black dog refused to try again. His master coaxed him, And having missed only once was no big deal. But the dog simply refused to try again. So the brown dog won the contest. And it seemed as if this black dog already knew what it could do. There's only so much it could do. It knew what it could do and developed little or no perseverance, while the little brown dog had not yet finished growing and expanding. So he just kept doing it, and he became the winner of that. But there are many times in our lives where we are like that sleek black dog. We give it one attempt. Oh, God, failed, not doing that again. But it might be an opportunity to persevere, to be resilient, and to shine our light even brighter. And I love this statement. I really love this. We should all shoot for the moon. Even if we miss, we'll be among the stars.
Yeah.
We should all shoot for the moon, and even if we miss, we'll be among the stars. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
And so there you have it, my friends. This morning's formula, R-O-A-R. So, R, reach for our resplendency. Yeah. Open, O, open your observing eyes. A, activate your awesomeness. And R, rejoice in your resiliency. You are resilient beings. And this is all so that we can live from the indwelling divine nature, the greatness within, so that we can wake up to our divinity, to become aware of it, because it's there, and take our rightful place on earth, like Simba, take our rightful place on earth, and be in that ever upward spiral of life. So make sure you're here every Sunday, because we're going to be speaking about this for the next couple of Sundays in the month. And we are really, what we're doing is we're relearning how amazing we truly are. Babies already know it. We're relearning it now in our life. And we are learning to stretch maybe just a little bit more, maybe coming here today, especially people for the first time, maybe there's a little bit of a stretch. Well, maybe you learned something new. Maybe it felt good. You know, we don't know unless we try. And so stretching is really important. So remember that in the stretching, though, in the stretching is where we reveal to ourselves just how great and awesome we really are. That's the truth. And so it is.
And so it is.
Woo-hoo!